Hello, Rick. Welcome. Hello, Poe. Yeah, that's right. Douse. Yes. Hello, Jay. Welcome. Thank you, Rick. Hello, Norma. In hospice with your sister, I assume. Does she have a time frame? We'll get started in a little bit more than a minute or so. It could. Okay, so it could be very soon. Oh, Yankee. Well, then there's not much you can do than to be here for her and be there with her as she goes, on her journey. Hello, Risa. Good to see you. I consider it to be a great honor to be with somebody as they die. I've been able to do it a couple times, and hopefully many more times before it's my turn. Although I'm already telling the monks to just throw me out into the woods. I'm going to do like the old tribal cultures did. And when it comes to my time, I'm just going to go in the woods and nobody's ever going to see me again. If I'm lucky. All right. Very good. You've forgiven each other. Very good. I actually tried to volunteer for hospice years ago. But the problem was that they said my job, I was in my CPS career at the time, and they said my job takes too much time. So I couldn't volunteer. They needed a required amount of hours per week or something like that, and they wouldn't let me. But, all right. I think we are good to get started. Let me share screen. For the Maggasekha chanting book. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sukho viveko tuttassa sutta dhammassa passato avyapajjang sukhang loke panabhute susamyamo sukha viragata loke kamanang samattikamo asmimanassa yo vinayo etang ve paramang sukhang sabbang paravassang dukkhang sabbang issariyang sukhang sadharane vihanyata nyanti yoga hi dorati kammati dugatyo jahi araketena kayena micchaditti gatena cha tina midda bibutena vasangmarasa gacchati tasmarakita chittassa sammasankappa gocharo sammaditti porekaro nyatvana udaya bayayang tina midda bibubiku sabbadugatiyo jaheti sukarang saduna sadhu papena dukarang papang papena sukarang papang aryehi dukarang. All right, English. Blissful is detachment for one who is content, for one who has learned the Dhamma and who sees. Blissful is freedom from anger in the world, restraint towards all living creatures. Blissful is passionlessness in the world, the overcoming of sensual desires, but the abolishing of the conceit I am, that is truly the supreme bliss. All subjection to another is painful. Full mastery is bliss. Partners share in affliction. Bonds are difficult to overcome. Forsake bad destinations. With an unguarded body and encumbered by wrong views, overcome by lethargy and torpor, one goes along in the power of Mara. So let one's mind be guarded. Let one's domain be right thought. By putting right view to the forefront, by understanding rise and fall, and overcoming lethargy and torpor, a bhikkhu will forsake all bad destinations. For the good to do what is good is easy. For the bad to do what is good is difficult. For the bad to do what is bad is easy. For the noble to do what is bad is difficult. All right, friends, it is Monday night. That means it is time for the Festival of Dhamma with the Maggasekha community. It's time for Dhammapalooza, where we do a variety of different Dhamma-related activities. We do some chanting. Later on, we'll do some meditation. In between, who knows? Because each Dhammapalooza is community guided. There are many different activities we can do. Maybe perhaps there's lots of questions tonight, and it's mostly Q&A. Or maybe there's no questions and it's sutta reading. Or some of our sutta games like sutta roulette or word roulette. There's many things that we can do on Dhammapalooza. And so it depends on you. So in the chat for the next couple of minutes, if you have any questions, technically you can post questions at any time during Dhammapalooza, not just the next couple of minutes. But if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. If you have any topics you'd like me to give a Dhamma talk on, you can put them in the chat. If you have any topics you'd like the community to discuss, you can put them in the chat. And if there are none, well, there's always a sutta waiting in the wings. And I have one of my favorite suttas lined up for today if we need it. We'll see how it goes. Hello, Rick, Dharma Learner, Kim, and Gregory. Gregory, it's good to see you on Dhammapalooza. Usually your stalwart morning monastery experience. And all right, very good. It's good to see people at night. Rick has some question here. Can you talk about seeing the rising and falling of negative mind states in relation to seemingly insignificant change in conditions, such as being hungry, tired, sleep deprived, or in pain. What are skillful ways to practice with these states? Reminding yourself of certain things. Because what happens is when you can really get lost in the experience of the pain, of the unpleasant experience. You can kind of get lost in it. Your mindfulness is lost. You're wrapped up in it. It has, in a certain way, it's become you at that moment. It has become your whole world. Sometimes you have to back up. Sometimes you have to say, oh, wait, this is just what's happening now. It'll go away. You know, if I'm tired, oh, wait, I know that when I'm tired, I'm agitated. I can't think as straight, etc., etc., etc. So you're kind of reminding yourself of certain truths and realities related to that experience that you're having right then, and that can kind of be like a bridge. That can kind of be a bridge for you to escape the totality of that experience. You can back up. Right? You can assume the investigator's stance. Instead of being wrapped up in it, you can be investigating it. And when you're able to do that, then the power of it is diminished and you're able to investigate its rise and fall. You're able to investigate the power that it had or has over you and how you react to it. And how it causes you suffering or how it doesn't. You know, so if you're hungry, you know, according to your the stomach, when you're hungry, it's like, you know, it's going based off of old um, the hunger aspect of this human being is based off a time where things were scarce. So if you were hungry, that means you should probably eat or else you're going to die. But today in the modern world, if you just allow that, you better eat or if you're going to die, then you just get fat. Because, you know, in 100,000 years ago, to eat, you have to go out and hunt and gather and do all kinds of things. Today, all you have to do is get in your car and go to the local convenience store. Right? It's a very different environment. So you have to remind yourself, if I don't eat, I'm not going to die. Like there's times, you know, in my traveling where I might not eat for the day. And I have to say, you know what? You'll survive. You can afford to lose a few pounds anyway. What's the difference? Right? You got enough padding. You'll survive a couple of days if you don't need to eat. And so, you know, you remind yourself of these certain truths and realities to counteract what's in your mind at the time. That's what I would say. Ooh, chat's quite quiet. No other questions or comments. Maybe it's time to read a sutta. Ah, all right, here comes one. It's a good question. Where do emotions fit under the four satipatthanas? A monk recently said the Dhammas, where I thought it would be chitta. It makes a tricky question since I don't think there's a Pali word for emotion. This is the thing. An emotion is it doesn't easily fit in one spot because there's a bunch of different factors that arise in an emotion. So you can't really like force emotions into one of the four satipatthanas. You can investigate the emotion regards the mind, regards the body. Right? So an emotion is a conglomeration of many different things. So you can apply the different satipatthanas in different aspects into investigating that emotion. If you're sad, well, there's a chitta, there's a mind aspect to it. There's a body aspect to it. There's a feeling aspect to it. There's this, various aspects of dhammas. There's the six senses to it. There's the five hindrances to it. There's lots of different tools that you can use to investigate that emotion. Okay? Not everything is just so very kind of just one aspect. Fast food is delivered now. Yeah, when I was babysitting, Aya Sudama's place, Charlotte Buddhist Vihara, for about 5 weeks. Sometimes some of the supporters like DoorDash, like sent stuff to me, and I saw like the prices. There's like $20 for the food, and then like $30 for delivery and tips. I'm like, wow, people. It's expensive these days to order food to you. Not good. And usually the food's not that healthy for you anyway. See, Douse has a question. How to give more importance to actions with tiny consequences? Eating unhealthily, being compelled to scratching. Well, eating unhealthily is not really a tiny consequence. The problem is that it takes a long time for you to see the consequences of your actions. It takes a long, long time. It's much easier to kind of see something that has a more immediate or short-term strong consequence than something that takes years and years and years. Being compelled to scratching, it's far too easy to go with it. I do not like it. I guess changing perception of tiny drops is necessary, like the Beauty of the Land Sutta. What's the name? Once we give something enough importance, it is much easier to do some or wonder if there is a rice. Okay, when you are truly investigating your mind, there's actually nothing, like if you're a true serious practitioner, there's no minor thing in your mind, because whatever is arising in your mind, well, is it going to lead to skillfulness or is it going to lead to harm, right? And so you are working on uprooting and abandoning any kind of unskillfulness, even if it's small, minor. Like there's no unskillfulness too small to work on abandoning. So even something very minor, you should be investigating. Now, of course, for most of your practice for the first many years, you're going to be dealing with the more gross stuff. The more easy to see, easy to understand, easy to investigate. And as you kind of see through those layers, then it gets more subtle, more refined, more small and harder to see. But nothing is too small to investigate if you're trying to truly understand the mind. I don't know if this is a question. When someone insults you, there is the sutta about the monkey and the coconut. You know, I'm not 100% because I've heard multiple. I know in the suttas there's similes about monkeys, but also I've heard real world similes about monkeys and coconuts and traps and things like that. So I'm always a bit kind of unclear as to what's in the suttas and what I just heard, like an Ajahn Brahm simile or something like that, because they are different. Um, I don't remember though. The beauty of the land. You mean the beauty queen, or the most beautiful woman in the land, where they you have to have a thing amphora of oil on top of you, and when you drop an oil, there's people with swords to cut off your head. The sutta about mindfulness. I've heard teachers casually say that letting go is essential to the path. I feel conflicted because although I don't suffer when I let go, I fear being irresponsible. How best to understand? You've heard me say many times, the beginning of the path is letting go, the middle of the path is letting go, and the end of the path is letting go. The whole path is about letting go. Each person has to kind of decide how far they want to let go, or how far they're going to develop the path in their own life. Right? There has to be limitations. Or become a monastic. And then you're free of responsibilities of like family and things like that allow you to let go even more. So, but no, the practicing letting go from the smallest to the deepest. For those of you who have not heard me talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end of the path is letting go. The beginning of the path, the Buddha's gradual practice, is dana. Being able to practice some level of generosity, give something without any expectations, to let go of something. And for most people, that's where they're at. It's hard enough to let go of, even small things. Giving a meal to monks or whatever, donating something, practicing some level of generosity without, maybe some people, they have to spend their whole lives practicing lots and lots of dana and kind of getting over attachments to how the dana should be used or who should get it, and all these kind of things. All of these attachments that come with supposed generosity. The middle of the path is letting go. Well, the middle of the path is what? Sila. Letting go of the possibilities of doing all kinds of actions. Right? You take on the 5 precepts, well, you're trying not to kill any beings, trying not to steal anymore, to sleep with whoever you want anymore, etc., etc., etc. Right? You're putting yourself, you're giving limitations, boundaries to yourself. That's letting go. And then in the final level, the abolishing of the conceit, I am, is the highest bliss. You're letting go of everything, including any iota of an idea of I am. There is nothing left to let go of. At that point, you're an arahant. So there really isn't. You've let go of everything. So letting go is the whole path. But it's a gradual path. You don't just get started and you're like, okay, I'm ready to let go of I am. No, that's not how it works. You let go at the level of your wisdom, at the level of your insight, at the level of your nibbida, your disenchantment and your dispassion. That's the level that you're ready, willing, and able to let go. So you decide where you're at and how much you can let go. You keep practicing, and then over time and over lifetimes, you let go of more. How important is it to let go of something we are not attached to? Well, if you're not attached to it, then there's no need to let go of it. Like, you can use it. Like Ajahn Chah has the simile of the stick, right? Like holding the stick because you need to use it, but you don't hold on to it too hard, right? You're not grasping at it. You're not attached to it. You're just using it. And when it's time to not use it, you lay it down. You have your cup until one day it breaks, and then you get another cup. Yeah, like that. That's the using things. You have to, in the conventional world, you have to use things. You have to pick up things. But mentally, you're not attached to them. All right. We have come to the end of chat. Why don't we now read a sutta? Fear and dread. Don't worry, Norma. We have at least a half hour before we meditate. So there's time for questions. There's time for suttas. Fear and dread. So I have heard. At one time the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's grove, Anathapindika's monastery. Then the Brahmin Janusoni went up to the Buddha, exchanged greetings with him. When the greetings and polite conversation were over, he sat down to one side and said to the Buddha, Master Gautama, those gentlemen who have gone forth out of faith from the lay life to homelessness, out of faith in you, have Master Gautama to lead the way. Help them out and give them encouragement. And those people follow Master Gautama's example. That's so true, Brahmin. Everything you say is true, Brahmin. But Master Gautama, remote lodgings in the wilderness and the forest are challenging. It's hard to maintain seclusion and hard to find joy in solitude. The forest seemed to rob the mind of a mendicant who isn't immersed in samadhi. That's so true, Brahmin. Everything you say is true, Brahmin. Before awakening, when I was still an unawakened but intent on awaken, I too thought. So we have here What we have here is another one of those rare, wonderful suttas where the Buddha tells us the practice that he did before he was awakened, while he was still a bodhisattva. And these are few and far between. They're all very valuable, very beautiful. I too thought remote lodgings in the wilderness and the forest are challenging. It's hard to maintain seclusion and hard to find joy in solitude. The forest seemed to rob the mind of a mendicant who isn't immersed in samadhi. And then I thought, there are ascetics and Brahmins with unpurified conduct of body, speech, and mind who frequent remote lodgings in the wilderness and the forest. Those ascetics and Brahmins summon unskillful fear and dread because of these defects in their conduct. Let's read this Bhante Sujato's little note here. That is, their guilt will manifest as fear. Throughout this sutta, the Buddha emphasizes that fear is overcome by the proper development of the path, which leads to confidence and strength of mind. This is an implicit contrast to the notion that one overcomes fear by either brute endurance and force of will or by magical spells and charms. It's not bad. I like that. But I don't frequent remote lodgings in the wilderness and forest with unpurified conduct of body, speech, and mind. My conduct is purified. I am one of those noble ones who frequent remote lodgings in the wilderness and the forest with purified conduct of body, speech, and mind. Seeing this purity of conduct in myself, I felt even more unruffled about staying in the forest. Then I thought, there are ascetics and Brahmins with unpurified livelihood who frequent remote lodgings in the wilderness and the forest. Those ascetics and Brahmins summon unskillful fear and dread because of these defects in their livelihood. But I don't frequent remote lodgings in wilderness and the forest with unpurified livelihood. My livelihood is purified. I am one of those noble ones who frequent remote lodgings in the wilderness and the forest with purified livelihood. Seeing this purity of livelihood in myself, I felt even more unruffled about staying in the forest. So the Buddha is an area here. So the Buddha is probably, I guess at this point, at least a Sotipanna, maybe a non-returner or a once-returner. Because he is saying he has some level of purification, and he is Arya. So, and he said this is when he's still a bodhisattva, so he's not awakened yet. Seeing this purity of livelihood in myself, I felt even more unruffled about staying in the forest. Then I thought, there are ascetics and Brahmins full of desire for sensual pleasures, with acute lust. I am not full of desire. There are ascetics and Brahmins full of ill will with malicious intentions. I have a heart full of metta. There are ascetics and Brahmins overcome with dullness and drowsiness. I am free of dullness and drowsiness. So now we're getting into the hindrances. There are ascetics and Brahmins who are restless with no peace of mind. My mind is peaceful. There are ascetics and Brahmins who are doubting and uncertain. I've gone beyond doubt. There are ascetics and Brahmins who glorify themselves and put others down. I don't glorify myself and put others down. There are ascetics and Brahmins who are cowardly and craven. I don't get startled. There are ascetics and Brahmins who enjoy possessions and honor and popularity. I have few wishes. There are ascetics and Brahmins who are lazy and lack energy. I am energetic. There are ascetics and Brahmins who are unmindful and lack situational awareness. I am mindful. There are ascetics and Brahmins who lack immersion, with straying minds. I am accomplished in immersion. There are ascetics and Brahmins who are witless and stupid, who frequent remote lodgings in the wilderness and the forest. Those ascetics and Brahmins summon unskillful fear and dread because of the defects of wit and of witlessness and stupidity. But I don't frequent remote lodgings in the wilderness and the forest with witless and in the forest witless and stupid. I am accomplished in wisdom. I am one of those noble ones who frequent remote lodgings in the wilderness and forests, accomplished in wisdom. Seeing this accomplishment of wisdom in myself, I felt even more unruffled about staying in the forest. Then I thought, there are certain nights that are recognized as especially portentous. The 14th, 15th, 8th of the fortnight. On such nights, why don't I stay in awe-inspiring and hair-raising shrines in parks and forests and trees? In such lodgings, hopefully I might see that fear and dread. Sometimes later, that's what I did. As I was staying there, a deer came by, or a peacock, snapped a twig, or the wind rustled the leaves. Then I thought, is this fear and dread coming? Then I thought, why do I always meditate expecting that fear to come? Why don't I get rid of that fear and dread just as it comes, while remaining just as I am? Not a bit. This is the first time reading Bhante Sujato's translation, and I quite like Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation better here. But I guess maybe that's because this is one of my favorite suttas, and I've read the Bhikkhu Bodhi translation many, many times. But the idea here is a wonderful thing about fear. The Buddha here is reflecting. He's in the forest. He hears a deer or a peacock snap a twig. And he reflects on, why does my mind always go to fear and dread? Why does it always go to the worst possible outcome? As somebody who spent lots of time in the forest at night, I know this very well. Many, many, many times before Bhavana and at Bhavana did I spend time pretty much alone in a forested area, observing my fear and observing these things. And even like a little squirrel, if you're alone by yourself at night in a forest, the sound of a little squirrel going through the leaves sounds like it might be a lion. Right? And so the Buddha's here, this is just a deer or a peacock that steps on a twig or rustles the leaves. And my mind automatically goes to, oh my God, I'm going to die. Oh my God, this is, my mind, it could be a bear, but it could be Bigfoot, because not only does your mind not go to just what might actually be in the forest, it could be, I don't know, Bigfoot, aliens, vampires, werewolves, whatever, right? The mind, the imagination can imagine all kinds of wild things. But this is the nature of the mind. And the Buddha is contemplating, why does my mind jump to these fearful conclusions? Why do I automatically go to the worst possible conclusion? That's a very important contemplation. Very wonderful thing to investigate. Why is that? Why do I always meditate expecting that fear to come? Why don't I get rid of that fear and dread just as it comes while remaining just as I am? So this is the basic Naviku Bodhi version. It's like, why don't I abandon this, observe it, and not even move, right? So it's not like I'm not going to react. I'm going to be steadfast, and I'm going to watch this fear arise. And I'm not going to get fearful and run away or anything like that, which is a very important skill for a meditator to have, both physically and mentally. Then that fear and dread came upon me as I was walking. I didn't stand still or sit down or lie down until I had gotten rid of the fear and dread while walking. Right? So the fear arises, and because of that, you just keep doing what you're doing. You don't allow it to control your actions. Then the fear and dread came upon me while I was standing. I didn't walk or sit down or lie down until I had gotten rid of that fear and dread while standing. Then that fear and dread came upon me as I was sitting. I didn't lie down or stand still or walk until I had got rid of that fear and dread while sitting. Then that fear and dread came upon me as I was lying down. I didn't sit up or stand still or walk until I had gotten rid of that fear and dread while still lying down. There are some ascetics and Brahmins who perceive that it's day when it's in fact night, or perceive that it's night when it's in fact day. This meditation of theirs is delusional, I say. I perceive that it's night when it's in fact night, and I perceive that it's day when it's in fact day. And if there is any one of whom it may be rightly said that a being not liable to delusion has risen in the world for the welfare and happiness of people, out of sympathy for the world, for the benefit, welfare, and happiness of gods and humans, it is of me that this rightly should be said. My energy was aroused up and unflagging. My mindfulness was established and lucid. My body was tranquil and undisturbed. And my mind was immersed in samadhi. Quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unskillful qualities, I entered and remained in the first jhana, which has the rapture and bliss born of seclusion, while placing the mind and keeping it connected. As the placing of the mind and keeping it connected were still, I entered and remained in the second jhana, which has the rapture and bliss born of immersion, with internal clarity and mind at one, without placing the mind and keeping it connected. And with the fading away of rapture, I entered and remained in the third jhana, where I meditated with equanimity, mindful and aware, personally experiencing the bliss of which the noble ones declare. Equanimous and mindful, one meditates in bliss. With the giving up of pleasure and pain, and the ending of former happiness and sadness, I entered and remained in the fourth jhana, without pleasure or pain, with pure equanimity and mindfulness. When my mind has become immersed in samadhi like this, purified, bright, flawless, rid of corruptions, pliable, workable, steady, and imperturbable, I extended it towards the recollection of past lives. I recollected many kinds of past lives. That is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 1,000, 100,000 rebirths. Many eons of world contracting, many eons of world expanding, many eons of world contracting and expanding. I remembered. There I was named this, my clan was that. I looked like this, and that was my food. This is how I felt pleasure and pain, and that is how my life ended. When I passed away from that place, I was reborn somewhere else. There too I was named this, my clan was that. I looked like this, and that was my food. This is how I felt pleasure and pain, and that was how my life ended. When I passed away from that place, I was reborn here, and so I recollected my many kinds of past lives with features and details. Let's see this note. Empowered by the fourth jhana, memory breaks through the veil of birth and death, revealing the vast expanse of time and dispelling the illusion that there is any place of eternal rest or sanctuary in the cycle of transmigration. The knowledge of these events is not hazy or murky, but clear and precise, illuminated by the brilliance of purified consciousness. That sounds nice. Sounds interesting. This was the first knowledge which I achieved in the first watch of the night. Ignorance was destroyed and knowledge arose. Darkness was destroyed and light arose, as happens for a meditator who is diligent, keen, and resolute. When my mind had become immersed in samadhi like this, purified, bright, flawless, rid of corruptions, pliable, workable, steady, and imperturbable, I extended it toward the knowledge of death and rebirth of sentient beings. With clairvoyance that is purified and superhuman, I saw sentient beings passing away and being reborn, inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, in a good place or a bad place. I understood how sentient beings are reborn according to their deeds. These dear beings did bad things by way of body, speech, and mind. They spoke ill of the noble ones, they had wrong view, and they chose to act out of that wrong view. When their body breaks up after death, they're reborn in a place of loss, a bad place, the underworld, hell. These dear beings, however, did good things by way of body, speech, and mind. They never spoke ill of the noble ones, they had right view, and they chose to act out of that right view. When their body breaks up after death, they're reborn in a good place, a heavenly realm, and so with clairvoyance that is purified and superhuman. I saw sentient beings passing away and being reborn, inferior and superior, beautiful and ugly, in a good place or a bad place. I understood how sentient beings are reborn according to their deeds. Here the knowledge extends to the rebirths of others as well as oneself. Even more significant, it brings in the understanding of cause and effect, why rebirth happens the way it does. Such a knowledge, however, is not infallible, as the Buddha warns in two suttas. The experience is one thing, the inferences drawn from it are another. One should draw conclusions only tentatively after long experience. Interesting. All right. This was the second knowledge which I achieved in the middle of the night. Ignorance was destroyed and knowledge arose. Darkness was destroyed and light arose, as happens for a meditator who is diligent, keen, and resolute. When my mind has become immersed in samadhi like this, purified, bright, flawless, rid of corruptions, pliable, workable, steady, and imperturbable, I extended it towards the knowledge of the ending of defilements. I truly understood. This is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the practice that leads to the cessation of suffering. I truly understood. These are defilements. This is the origin of the defilements. This is the cessation of the defilements. This is the practice that leads to the cessation of the defilements. Knowing and seeing like this, my mind was freed from defilements of sensuality, desire to be reborn, and ignorance. When I was freed, I knew I was freed. I understood. Rebirth is ended. The spiritual journey has been completed. What had to be done has been done. There is nothing further for this place. That was the third knowledge which I achieved in the final watch of the night. Ignorance was destroyed and knowledge arose. Darkness was destroyed and light arose, as happens to a meditator who is diligent, keen, and resolute. Brahman, you might think, perhaps the ascetic Gautama is not freed from greed, hatred, and delusion even today, and that is why he still frequents remote lodgings in the wilderness and the forest. But you should not see it like this. I see two reasons to frequent remote lodgings in the wilderness and the forest. I see a happy life for myself in the present, and I have sympathy for future generations. Indeed, Master Gautama has sympathy for future generations since he is perfected one, fully awakened Buddha. So, sympathy for future generations. We see this not only in the Buddha, but we see this also in my favorite of the Buddha's disciples, the grumpy old man, father of the Sangha, Maggasekha. They were setting an example. Right? They're awakened. They don't need to worry about going into the forest. But it's a nice peaceful place, away from a lot of the hubbub of society. What do you think? An awakened being becomes awakened and then wants to spend time in the village? No way. They spend time, they like to be in remote, secluded places. And it's such a wonderful role model, such a wonderful thing. This is how monks should be. Buddha and Maggasekha are saying, you should be in the forest. We are doing this to set an example because we have compassion for future generations of monastics. You should be in the forest. And for myself personally, I really feel I should be in the forest because I love it. I love being in the wilderness. I'd prefer to be there, but also because it sets a good role model. I want to have a forest, like I always say, I want to build my forest monastery and go die there. Because by the time it's built, I'll probably be old enough I'm going to be dead anyway. So we'll see. But this is a wonderful thing, right? Buddha, Maggasekha, and others, even though their job was done, they did it to be role models. And those who want to follow that lead and follow that ideal exist even to this day. All right. Excellent, Master Gautama, excellent. As if he were writing the overturned, or revealing the hidden, or pointing out the path to the lost, or lighting a lamp in dark so people with clear eyes may see what's there. Master Gautama has made the teaching clear in many ways. I go for refuge to Master Gautama, to the teaching, and to the mendicant Sangha from this day forth. May Master Gautama remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life. Norma says survival instinct, fight or flight. And yes, this is true. This is part of our, natural human makeup. And that's how we survive to this day. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't question why we always go for fear. Oh, I wonder if it's quite interesting how so little people are here. That's quite rare. I wonder if there's some issue with YouTube or something going on that I don't know. I don't know. All right. But I think now is a good time for meditation. All right. I was going to ask for somebody to say something in the chat, but Douse has said something, so that's good. So I know at least everything seems to be working. All right. It's quite late for you, Douse. All right. Let's do our meditation. Set your body up in a comfortable and stable position, whatever works for you. I think those here have heard my guided meditations for many times. So we'll do a very minimal guided meditation today. Do the scan of the body from the feet up to the head, checking for small feelings of discomfort and instability in your posture, adjusting as needed. Whenever you're ready, you can transition into following the breath. Remember to acknowledge, let go, and return. Always coming back to the breath. Slowly open your eyes, becoming aware of the room around you, your body's position in it. Reflecting on the state of your mind from before and now, and contemplating any experiences that stand out. And while you do that, we'll read some Dhammapada. Better than 1,000 useless words is one useful word, hearing which one attains peace. Better than 1,000 useless verses is one useful verse, hearing which one attains peace. Better than reciting 100 meaningless verses is reciting one verse of Dhamma, hearing which one attains peace. Though one may conquer 1,000 times 1,000 men in battle, that he indeed is the noblest victor who conquers himself. Self-conquest is far better than the conquest of others. Not even a god, an angel, Mara, or Brahma can turn into defeat the victory of a person who is self-subdued and ever restrained in conduct. Though month after month for 100 years one should offer sacrifices by the thousands, yet if only for a moment one should worship those of perfected minds, that honor is indeed better than a century of sacrifice. Though for 100 years one should tend the sacrificial fire in the forest, yet if only for a moment one should worship those perfected ones, that worship is indeed better than a century of sacrifice. Whatever gifts and oblations one seeking merit might offer in this world for a whole year, all that is not worth 1/4 of the merit gained by revering the upright ones, which is truly excellent. To one ever eager to revere and serve the elders, these 4 blessings accrue: long life and beauty, happiness and power. Better it is to live one day virtuous and meditative than to live 100 years immoral and uncontrolled. Better it is to live one day wise and meditative than to live 100 years foolish and uncontrolled. Better it is to live one day strenuous and resolute than to live 100 years sluggish and dissipated. Better it is to live one day seeing the rise and fall of things than to live 100 years without ever seeing the rise and fall of things. Better it is to live one day seeing the deathless than to live 100 years without ever seeing the deathless. Better it is to live one day seeing the supreme truth than to live 100 years without ever seeing the supreme truth. All right, friends. So we have come to the end. Let's do business and then we'll share merits and call it a night. So if you are joining for the first time and you are interested in finding out more information about myself and more future activities, the organization I'm creating called Maggasekha, then you can go to the website listed on the screen. That is the headquarters. All information when a new retreat comes out. This weekend coming up, I have a retreat. When there's articles, videos, streams, my travels, all of that I put on the website. Maggasekha.org, Maggasekha.org. All social media links and all the places where the Dhamma, Maggasekha Dhamma is on the internet. You can find all that information on the website. Let's share merit. Dukkha patta chane dukkha, bhaya patta chane bhaya, soka patta chane soka, hontu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata cha mehi, sampatam punya sampatam, sabbe deva anumodantu, sabba sampatti siddhya, akasata jabumata deva naga mahidika punyang tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share in this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. All right, friends, we have come to the end of another Dhammapalooza. Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy and at ease, practice well and be well, and may you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again, which could be tomorrow morning for morning monastery experience at 8 a.m. New York time, or if I make it the week, could be Saturday on Insight Timer, 3 p.m., or Sunday in the Discord for our weekly sutta readings, Suttas Monday, or if I make it a whole other week, next Monday for another Dhammapalooza. Have a good week.